always, in the name of Allah, you bow your heads. I seek refuge in Allah against the accursed Satan. Surely I am being turned upright to him who originated the heavens and earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he in this I am commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King. There is no God but thee. Thou, my Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So please grant me protection against my faults. For none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me to the best of morals. For none guides to the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and indecent morals. For none turns away the evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad, and bless the true followers of Muhammad, as thou didst bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised and magnified. And O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou didst make Abraham successful and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised and magnified in our midst. Ameen. In the most holy name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. I'd like to greet everyone in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, my name is Brother Rodney Muhammad on behalf of the Nation of Islam, on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, on behalf of his local representative, Minister Anthony Muhammad, on behalf of our captains, sister and brother, on behalf of our secretary and all those who labor the cause of Islam, welcome to Muhammad's Mosque number 55. As always, it is our honor, our privilege, our pleasure to serve the city of Memphis on behalf of Student Minister Anthony Muhammad, on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan here in this city, to offer to our brothers and sisters in the city of Memphis the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught and represented by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for the uplift of fallen humanity. We are living in a time, brothers and sisters, where there is a dire need for the raising up of a standard amongst our people. Our people are suffering tremendously here in the city of Memphis, as can be seen every evening on the 4 o'clock, the 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, and the 10 o'clock news. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Whenever they talk about the black community, they talk of violence, they talk of degenerate, savage behavior in terms of how we relate to one another. They talk of death. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
This is what you hear for the most part when you hear about our people on the news. There's very little good news to be heard. But we here at Muhammad Mosque number 55 have been the beneficiaries of the good news that you read about in the Bible's teaching. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We have that good news, brothers and sisters, that our people need to hear. We need to understand it, which means that we need to study it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Which is to say that we apply our minds to the acquisition of knowledge, but not any kind of knowledge, but a particular kind of knowledge that is being offered today and has been offered now for 88 years. God came to North America, brothers and sisters. We need to understand that. We might be able to recite it, we might be able to state it, but do we understand it? God is present.
Yes, sir.
In person.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear me?
Yes, sir.
He's present in person. That means that God is not absent the situation, that we find ourselves in, but he is in the very situation that we find ourselves in. Not that he is affected by the situation that we find ourselves in, but he is working to counter the effect of the condition that we are in, brothers and sisters. And he does that by working his own will.
Yes, sir.
Any and every one of us who is under the sound of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's voice is an agent of God. God in the Bible and also in the Holy Quran is referred to as the Lord of hosts.
Yes, sir.
So which one of us will host the Lord? When you host somebody, that presupposes that first you invited them in, right?
Yes, sir.
Huh? So how many of us have actually invited God in to our temple? Not just Muhammad's Mosque number 55, which we should have invited somebody out to Muhammad's Mosque number 55. Is that right?
That's right.
But how many of us have actually invited God into our physical temple? A temple not made by the hands of men, because a man didn't make our physical body. Is that right? Except he offered up the worthless water and it mixed with ovum and it produced us, right?
Yes, sir.
But the hands of man didn't produce it. It was the hand of God working in the womb of the female that produced our bodies. Is that right, brothers and sisters? It was the DNA coding that offered the agenda or the process by which that body would be formed. All of the organs, right?
Yes, sir.
The skin, the covering, right? The bones, which serve as the foundation. All of that was coded in the very DNA. But brothers and sisters, we need to invite God into our dwelling place today so that we can be in effect in the streets of Memphis, so that we can offer the good news to our people here in the city of Memphis, so that our people will be given a standard. Like I said earlier, a standard needs to be raised in the city of Memphis, Brother Willie. A standard needs to be raised so that our people can see what the measure is, right?
That's right. Right.
You find this in the 87th surah of the Holy Quran, where it talks about how Allah creates, then he makes complete. He offers the measure, then he guides. Well, the people have to have the standards so that they can properly measure, right?
Yes, sir.
And once we can properly measure by recognizing the standard, then we can be rightly guided. God came in person to offer to us the measure through his messenger because we were in a mess. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We didn't know that we were in a mess. We didn't know that we couldn't see. We didn't know that we were blind, deaf, and dumb, and even dead, as the prophets described us. Is that right?
That's right.
That's the condition that we were found in, brothers and sisters. We had eyes, but we couldn't see. We had ears, but we couldn't hear. We had a mouth, but we couldn't articulate the condition that we were in necessarily and offer the right type of solution to the problem that we had as a people. There were those who had tried to resurrect us. They tried to baptize us in the good news of the Christian gospel as it was related to them by the Christian preachers. But the Christian preacher, he didn't have the right kind of message for our people.
That's right.
He had a message, but that message served the enemy more than it served the God that actually gave the message to the messenger Jesus 2,000 years prior. And they did a hell of a number on our people, such that to this very day, we still have the chains of that gospel on our minds. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Because we still looking forward to a life after physical death. Just think over that. So we'll waste the life that we live actually on this earth, hoping that once we get into the ground, the physical earth that actually breaks down the physical body, right? All of the bacteria and microscopic insects will begin to eat away at the very body that we think one day will be resurrected. Well, what will we be resurrected from, Brother Willie? From the insects? From the bacteria?
Yeah.
Huh? We still have a hope in that kind of gospel, brothers and sisters, when we have an actual gospel that is calling us to actual action, socially, politically, economically, while we live.
That's right.
Why would we hope in such a thing after we are physically dead, when we have an opportunity, when we are physically alive, to actually go to work and start to build something on this earth that is actually beneficial to us while we live? One of the first things that we need to do, brothers and sisters, is focus on building an educational system.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, along with those of his companions, actually sacrificed to build a school for our children.
Yes, sir.
And when I say our, I don't necessarily mean those of us that's in this room, but I'm saying our as a collective body.
That's right.
They sacrificed such that they were willing to and did go to jail for that very cause.
That's right.
Well, why wouldn't we bag up a cause like that in the present context?
Yes, sir.
We need to sacrifice some dollars to ensure that our babies have an institution in this city that they can go to and receive the type of principles that will absolutely make them the new world ruler.
Yes, sir.
God is bringing in a new world order. He is tearing down the old order. All you got to do is open up your eyes. Look at what's going on in the world. Europe is breaking up. Is that right?
That's right.
That's what Brexit is. Brexit means the breakup of the old idea, the old world order. We need to know and understand that our baby in this city, which is the University of Islam, needs to be properly nurtured
Yes, sir.
with some dollars.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Make it money.
She needs to be properly nursed with the right type of nutrition so that our babies, when they feed on the breast of education that we have as a school in this city, they will be properly nursed into the right type of idea and concept with regards to who God is.
Yes, sir.
Because when you know who God is, you know who you are and what your connection is to the divine supreme being. And God quickens in the baby the creative idea to be able to create a reality for themselves and not work to maintain the reality of our enemy.
That's right.
Which is what we do. We're working to maintain his reality. But we need to force our babies, by putting the right kind of idea in their mind, to actually create in their minds a vision for a new reality for themselves. So that when they leave the school at whatever age and at whatever level the school goes to, they have the right idea in mind so that they will go out with the conquering idea in their minds to go out and to do exactly what God came for them to do.
Yes, sir.
Which is to satisfy his purpose, to give freedom, justice, and equality to themselves, to their family, to their community, and to their people. The enemy is not going to give us freedom. Has he given it to us yet?
No, sir.
So how long will we wait for the enemy to give us freedom when all he has given us is slavery, suffering, and death?
That's right.
No relief came to us, brothers and sisters, until the Son of Man came. The Son of Man came and relieved us of the mental torment and anguish that the enemy put us in. Is that right?
That's right.
Well, when are we going to take up that idea that God came with and free ourselves from the physical bondage that we remain in to this day? We need the right idea in mind, brothers and sisters. We need to host the Lord so that the Lord will be the driving force in our life that will move us in a direction of becoming really free, justified, and equals on this planet, establishing a nation of righteousness on this planet that will rule with a rod of iron as listed in the Bible. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
See, that rod of iron, again, is the standard. It's Islam. Whether we want to believe it or not, Islam will rule in the hereafter, brothers and sisters.
Right.
What you see on this flag represented, freedom, justice, and equality, that will rule in the hereafter. That's what the prophets were talking about when they talked about the kingdom of God.
Yes, sir.
When they talked about the coming kingdom of God, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, it was talking about the coming of peace.
That's right.
But you can't have peace without submission.
That's right.
Submission is what justifies you in the sight of God. Submission is what wins you the favor of God. God extends to us his mercy, which is an offering of knowledge of who he is, so that we will turn away from the idols that the enemy has put before us, which is really an indirect worship of himself. Is that right?
Right, sir.
I know right now if I said Jesus, some of us would conjure up an idea of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus.
That's right.
Huh?
That's right.
Still. Or a white, bearded man, right? Sitting on the throne.
Uh-huh.
We got to disabuse ourselves of that kind of idea. God is a black man. The Ancient of Days, the original man. The maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth. The God of the universe. God has power sitting right up in your own self. The essence that drives you to do the right thing, to make the right decisions if you would but listen to it. Listen to the messenger of God, which is really God in person. We got to cater to that essence, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what a host does. So if the Lord is present in you, then you cater to the Lord. And when the Lord speaks and puts demands on his host, the host should say, yes, sir. Right? Whatever you want, whatever you desire. And that's a demonstration of our submission to him, our obedience to him. And when we obey him, then we enter into a state of peace.
Yes, sir.
Huh? But the Holy Quran asks, have you seen him who belies religion? Or gives a false representation of religion? How? By being rough to the orphan. Well, hell, all of us are orphans.
Yes, sir.
Because all of us have been disconnected from God.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Sir.
Who is the real father? Right?
She's right.
Not only the physical father, because all of us, if we reach back into our ancestral history, we will bump heads with the originator of the heavens and the earth, because we are the direct descendants of God. Is that right?
That's right.
But he's also our spiritual father, or he should be. So we need to reach down into ourselves and offer a helping hand to the essence of God in us that's been covered over by the dross, the wickedness, the evil, the degeneracy of this old wicked world that the enemy is continually encouraging us to heap on to the essence of God, right? By all of these distractions that you see
That's right.
on television, housewives of this and so on and so forth. I mean, you got all kind of mess on TV today, Brother Roger. You know, you got all kind of stuff on the internet, social media. Is that right?
That's right.
All kind of stuff will jump out at you on Facebook and Instagram and all of these other social media platforms.
Right.
But brothers and sisters, we need not be distracted by all of the madness that the enemy seeks to pump into our minds. We need to participate in the purging of all of that. Right?
That's right.
It's up to you once you hear. It's up to us.
Right.
Once we have heard, brothers and sisters, this life-giving teaching that will give us the power to meet and overcome all obstacles that are in our paths. Right?
Right.
The Holy Quran talks about 3 types of clothing. And I'm just opening up for our beloved minister. I saw him come into the building and I'm anticipating what he has to say.
That's right. Yes, sir.
But the Holy Quran talks about 3 types of clothing. One that covers our shame, right?
Uh-huh.
That's physical clothing, right?
That's right.
One for beauty, and you know how brothers like to get fresh. You know what I'm saying? We like putting on a nice suit or, a nice whatever, and going out and being seen, right? So that's the clothing for beauty. But the Holy Quran talks about the best type of clothing, which is that which guards against evil.
Yes, sir.
And here to talk about that is our beloved minister. Please stand, brothers and sisters, for our minister, the local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Minister Anthony Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praises are due forever, the Lord of the worlds. We thank him for his many blessings, and we are taught that the greatest of God's blessing is divine revelation that he extends to the human family when we stray away from his straight path. And that revelation comes through the mouth of his prophets. We thank him for Moses and the Old Testament, and we thank him for Jesus and the New Testament, and we thank him for Muhammad and the Holy Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Allah. Brothers and sisters, I am a student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I could never thank Allah enough for his divine intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who has come among us. He found one among us that was worthy, that he could lay on him a weighty word, and we're going to have to talk about this at some point. We thank him for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we thank them both for not leaving us comfortless, but leaving us with the champion that we were so blessed to see last Sunday, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let me once again greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody this morning? You turkeyed out yet? That's about it, huh? Well, okay, that's enough. Okay, this is crazy. This thing is just something.
Yes, sir.
I want to start by let's give Brother Rodney a round of applause for his opening remarks. I guess many of us are still in the holiday spirit. We're not ready to, we're just trying to wind it down. I wanted us to now prepare for something. We had a couple of brothers, Brother Rashad and Dimitri, who were in Chicago with Minister Farrakhan all last week, for a whole week. Now, I'm going to tell you, you get to be around someone like that for a week, that's pretty special.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you want to hear some of what took place or what's taking place? Wouldn't you want to know some of that?
Yes, sir.
Now, when I was coming up as a Muslim, when you got around Minister Farrakhan and you were in a meeting or something of that nature,
Right.
when you came home, first thing we want to know what happened.
Yes, sir.
What did he say? What should we be doing? So while we know that we're going to go into Christmas and these things, we are not moved by that.
Come on.
That is not what we do. I mean, I hope not, right? So we want to know some of the objectives, the aims, the goals, what we are trying to accomplish. You all heard Minister Farrakhan last Sunday say it's time for a showdown. Well, what is this all about? So I thought that before we go into a subject, that it would be good to have a few minutes to have them come before you and to bring us some of what was discussed. Wouldn't you want to know the test before the test? I mean, if you could get some answers, right? I mean, so I think that we should do it. So I asked them would they have a few words, and Brother Dimitri is here. Many times when I reach out to them, they're on some assignment, top secret stuff, but he's here. So let's bring him on for a round of applause to give us a few words. Brother Dimitri Muhammad, then we'll come back. Bring him on, brothers and sisters.
Assalamu alaikum. In the most holy name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. We thank Allah for his merciful intervention into our affairs in the person of the great Mahdi, Master Fard Muhammad. We thank him for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we could never thank them enough, both enough, for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Beloved brothers and sisters, very happy and very honored to once again to be before this microphone at the great Muhammad's Mosque number 55, one of the strongest mosques in our nation. Mosque number 55, this mosque right here, that's right, you should give yourself. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as you know, is a man that has been on the battlefield, not just for the Muslims, but for all black people. And so this is a mosque that we say that we have a certain amount of distinction and honor as those that don't just allow our minister to go to the front line by himself. This is a mosque and this is a community of believers that have consistently, under the leadership of Student Minister Anthony Muhammad, always been a great and a strong support for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So allow me to bring you greetings from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan of Assalamu alaikum. That we shall do. We were blessed, as Student Minister Anthony said, to spend about 5 days with our beloved minister and executive council as we come together to really give flesh and meat to the meaning of that song, "We Are Fighting for Islam." Oh, yeah. And you know the other part of the song is that, "And we will surely win." That's right. And so we are gearing up to fight the enemies of truth, to fight the enemies of God, to fight the enemies of the rise of our people, to fight the enemies of Islam. Some of you know that in 2010, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he published a book entitled The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 2. And he had a message that he delivered in Atlanta entitled The Real Children of Israel. And that was the occasion to debut the publication of The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 2. And from that day forward, he organized the research group to help him to beat back the charge of anti-Semitism, yes, that has unfairly been attached to his name and his noble reputation. I mean, it's personally offensive to me. It should be personally offensive to us that a man so noble, a man so honorable, a man so righteous, that if you just do any bit of small research about him, you see that those that have written about him for years have affixed to his name anti-Semitism. So from that day forward, we began to fight and to push back against this charge. But again, Minister Farrakhan is not just the leader of Muslims. He's not just the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. For the past 40 years, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been the principal leader for black people in America. And I would go so far as to say he has been the chief voice of the voiceless and all oppressed people around the world, because as we just witnessed, the minister's work is not just confined to America, and I again say it's not just confined to the Nation of Islam, but everything that the minister has done, all of his initiatives, all of his plans, all of his dreams, all of his visions, all of his goals and objectives have been for the improvement of the quality of life and the total liberation and salvation of the near 40 to 50 million black people in America, and those in the Latino, in the Hispanic, and even in the poor white community. So the minister has not been a narrowly focused man.
Right.
The reason why I emphasize this is because we believe that all of our people owe the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a debt of gratitude. We believe that all of our people should be encouraged and invited to defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because in defending the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the defense of black leadership and the defense of the best among us.
That's right.
And yet at every turn, beloved brothers and sisters,
Every turn.
go back just a little recap of history. Some of us may be too young to remember that in the 1980s, Minister Farrakhan borrowed $5 million from our brother in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. Why did the minister borrow $5 million? Because he wanted to help black America go into business, specifically the personal care business, the beauty product business. Do you know, beloved brothers and sisters, we spend millions or billions of dollars in trying to beautify ourselves? We spend millions and billions of dollars trying to groom ourselves. Long before our brother Chris Rock did the excellent documentary called Good Hair, where he went into the nuts and bolts and the details of that industry, the minister was dealing with that issue back in the 80s. And he had found a solution for it. He was organizing us to pool our resources since we are the #1 consumers of beauty and personal care products, but we're not the #1 producers. So the minister borrowed $5 million so that we could establish a product line. At that time, it was called the Power product line. Some of you who may be familiar with the Eden Fresh line, it is kind of like a derivative of the original Power product line. But when the minister was rolling this out, the Jewish leaders came out. And they began to write articles denigrating the minister, saying, would you buy toothpaste from this man that is an anti-Semite? Mr. George Johnson of Johnson Products was excited about the minister's initiative. And he said that Farrakhan, we will produce it and help black America. But since his distributors were Jewish, they told Mr. Johnson, if you help Minister Farrakhan, we will ensure that all your products will sit on the shelves and go bad and you won't make no money. You have to close your doors. So Mr. Johnson, out of survival and self-preservation, he had to go back to his brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and say, Minister Farrakhan, I've been threatened. I can't help you help our people.
Right. Come on now.
Even a black bank, and you've heard Student Minister Anthony Muhammad talk about how ludicrous this was back in the 80s. The minister couldn't take $5 million home and put it under his mattress like some of us might do. He had to take that $5 million and go and deposit it in a black bank. But the black bank, because of pressure from the Jewish community, they called the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and say, Minister, can you please come and take your money? The reason why that's so ridiculous is because just a small understanding of banking and finance, we understand that whatever money we put in the bank takes our money and then they lend our money and they make money off of our money. So a $5 million deposit in a black bank, the bank directors probably felt like it was going to be Christmas around that place. But because of the threat from the Jewish community, they had to even forego the potential profit that they would have gained from doing business with the minister. Fast forward to the dope busters. Some of us, again, and this for all of our young brothers and sisters, need to go back and study the history of the rebuilding of the nation. A lot of times when we talk about the history of the nation, we're looking at prior to 1975. And that's an important segment of history. But the period of the rebuilding from 1977 till today is critical for us to understand. Because this is the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad backing him, approving him, and authorizing him. All praise is due to Allah. But all the while, the members of the empire were in and out of the black community.
Right.
The Jews said, they're proselytizing their religion. We don't want them in poor communities where there's crime and violence. Now the FOI went into these communities without guns. The FOI went into these communities without mace, without handcuffs, without batons, without carnal weapons. We just went in with our teaching. And it began not so much as we going in there to fight crime and violence. We were just going in to distribute our paper, which is our way of devotion. We were just doing what we do, and we noticed that when we did what we had been ordered and commanded to do, there was this magnificent side effect. The people noticed it. Say, hey man, can we get y'all to stay here for a little while longer? Because when y'all show up, when the brothers show up, it's peace in the hood. The drug dealers find somewhere else to go. The thieves and robbers and the rapists find somewhere else to go when the Muslims show up. But it was the leaders of the Jewish community who had a problem with that. And I think over this now because I want you to understand the context and the historical backdrop of this fight and this campaign. Because this is the beginning of a national campaign that involves not just the, I would say, fight against white supremacy. You know, we were taught in the early days of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, that the white man is the devil. And that's true. But you know, everybody has a head.
Come on.
And you know, they say something about the brain. They say you can have a 200-pound man, a 300-pound man, a 400-pound man, but his brain is only about 3 pounds. So even though his brain is not as large as the rest of his body, it controls the rest of his body. The brain thinks for the body. The brain hears for the body. The brain sees for the body. The brain speaks for the body. So even though those in the Jewish community say, why are you always upset with us? We're only 2 or 3% of the population. But that little small numerical population controls the world of white supremacy and white domination. And they have come out to fight the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So again, we are fighting for Islam.
Yes, sir.
The question becomes, are we ready?
That's a good question.
Are we ready to fight those that have been our enemies? Are we ready to fight those who slandered the name of a good man? Are we ready to fight those who would love to make your membership, brother, in the Fruit of Islam class an illegal act?
That's right. Come on. That's right.
Are we ready to fight those sisters who would like to make your membership in the MGT class an illegal act?
We're working on it. Think about it. Come on, brother.
So you're getting the history. Prior to 1975, we had to fight.
That's right. Had to fight.
Sometimes physically.
Right. Sometimes.
But we're not even being asked to fight physically today. Certainly asked to be prepared for whatever.
Right. Come on.
But all throughout the Bible and the Quran, you find references to the defense of the faith. Somewhere, I think it's in Peter, it says something about, and be ready at all times to defend the faith and the hope that is within you. The Quran is in harmony with the Bible when it says, hurl truth at falsehood to knock out its brains. And falsehood is an ever vanishing thing. I say to us, the victory for us has already been assured. We just have to make sure that we are in the right position. We know the play. See, I know we're going to go home and watch Sunday football. Well, let me myself. And even my favorite players, they're great. They have great talent and ability. But long before you and I see them score a touchdown and win the game, they had to read and study the playbook. They had to understand, okay, if I'm a running back, What do I do when this play is called? If I'm a wide receiver, how do I respond when the defense is showing this? If I'm the quarterback, when do I call an audible?
Come on.
So we've got some study to do.
Right.
We've got some preparation to do.
Yes, sir.
We've got to bring ourselves back into harmony with our discipline.
Yes, sir. Come on.
See? I know we wait till Ramadan sometime to come back to the Surat al-Mustaqim.
Yes.
Because living in a hellacious world as this, even our striving for righteousness, by the time you really look at your discipline, you may be 5 degrees to the left or 10 degrees to the right. But it's now time for us to put ourselves into war mode.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is inviting all of the entities of our nation to join us in this campaign. You know, it's kind of similar to how Joshua and Caleb did in the Bible. I remember Minister Anthony did a magnificent lecture once called The Minority Report.
That's right.
And he talked about Joshua and Caleb. They had to go and see what was in the promised land and come back and give a report.
Yeah.
Could we defeat the giants that are in the land? And the report was that we can take these chumps. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his research team have been doing likewise. And we say to our nation, we can take these chumps, but we need your support. So, Brother Minister, I want to put a pin in my remarks and pass the baton.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to do a halfback pass since we're using a football analogy. And my brother is over there in the flat, so he's going to catch the football and we'll go a little bit further. Assalamu alaikum. Minister Ilya Rashad Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. In the most holy name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the All-Wise, true and living God, the true and living God who appeared to us as the scriptures predict that God would appear in the form of a human being.
Yes, sir.
So we are thankful that Allah has intervened in our affairs and appeared in the person of Master Father Muhammad and raised up the man whom we now know, not just believe, but the man whom we now know and recognize to be that messianic figure that the world of religion has been awaiting. And I speak of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man who is still gravely misunderstood by the public and unfortunately even by some of us. And this is why we're thankful to Allah for continuing his love and mercy upon us by leaving us with that man who really is an extension of that messianic force, an extension of that wisdom, an extension of that love. And that brother that I speak of is none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So brothers, sisters, with this short time I have before you, let me greet you with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I am truly, truly honored to be always here, which is my home, Mosque 55, and to be with you, my family of 55. I would like to share, as our student minister, Anthony Muhammad, suggested that we share some of, some insight of what took place. As Brother Dimitri just shared, he and I and a few others were blessed to be in the presence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Executive Council for nearly a week, it seems. I think it was six days altogether. And naturally, it was a time very busy, a lot of meetings and deliberations and planning and strategizing. But it's all for the good of our nation. Yes, sir. And if it's good for the nation, it is certainly good for black people. Part of our purpose for being up there was to work up some strategies for a national defense campaign. Now, as you heard Brother Dimitri say in our fight song, we always say we are fighting for Islam and we will surely win. Now, if you're not a Muslim and you think that sounds real religious-y, when we say we're fighting for Islam, all they're saying is that we are fighting for true freedom, justice, and equality. And if you know what true Islam is, you'll be singing the same song right along with us. So we are fighting for these noble principles. And as we work up these strategies, which will involve every major department and aspect of our nation, it dawned on me that right here, Memphis, Mosque 55, our brilliant student minister Anthony Muhammad are to play very important and integral roles in this process. It is no stranger to the Nation of Islam that under his leadership here, Memphis has produced and is still producing some of the great helpers in the Nation of Islam. Just about everybody on our local administrative staff plays a national role in our Nation of Islam. So recognizing this, it is only fitting that this mosque, the believers, the staff and laborers right here ought to play a vital role in defending our nation, defending black people, and certainly defending the man of God. One of the charges that Minister Farrakhan suggested is that we have to beat back these false charges of anti-Semitism. As you know, that is like the weapon, the go-to weapon of white supremacy. We know that white folks rule the world, but when we want to get more specific, we have to see and recognize this subset of whites, of Caucasians, who happen to be primarily members of the Jewish community. Not all Jews, but certain members of the Jewish community who wield tremendous influence and control over practically all the major industries of world power. So Minister Farrakhan used the term that, upon learning of these enemies, they were pretty much at every turn. In education, in finance, in banking, in media, in Hollywood, in all of these things, including so-called black organizations. Hello, somebody. Yes, I'm going to say that again. See, the enemy, this synagogue of Satan, as the scriptures describe, has inserted himself in just about every aspect of power, including so-called black liberation organizations. So we see now that our sisters are even under attack. And since they know Minister Farrakhan's messianic role, let me backtrack just a little bit. See, part of what Minister Farrakhan also asked for, as you probably heard in Chicago, is that he asked and demanded a showdown to call out Satan. They've been putting these false charges on him for all these years. And be mindful now, when they do this, this is not just some name calling when they call somebody anti-Semitic. Because of this lie that has been placed on our minister and the Nation of Islam, the tremendous amount of resources, networks, and friendships and relationships have been thwarted. So all of the good that the Nation of Islam has done and still continues to do for black people could have been done exponentially were it not for Satan's hand in forcing people to disassociate from the Nation of Islam. They want to make us a fringe group. They want to marginalize the Nation of Islam and our leadership and relegate us to the sideline somewhere. So they always write us out of history as though the Nation of Islam has not produced the most magnificent and productive people that black America has ever seen. That's just a fact. All the heroes that you really like, that you say were really down for the people and all of this, they came through the Nation of Islam. You claim to love Malcolm, but you don't love the source that made Malcolm what he was. You claim you love Muhammad Ali, who shook up the world and he stood up against the Vietnam War as though he did that absent of the Nation of Islam. You claim you love the Black Panthers and how they did all of this and they stood up, but you know they were inspired by the program of the Nation of Islam. You say the Black Panthers they did some awesome stuff. They had some breakfast and they fed children in the schools, and that is absolutely awesome. Yes. But you know where they got that from? They got that from the people who not only fed children in public schools, but they got that from people who actually grew their own food with their land, with their So the Nation of Islam is in a vanguard position.
That's right. Do that.
And the Nation of Islam will not lose. We are fighting for this truth, and we will surely win. But in order to do this, there's a process that has to take place. In this divine process, somebody has to call out and identify the Satan that has the world deceived and confined in their grasp, in their grip.
Come on.
But this is not a job just for anybody.
Right.
I'm going to say that again.
Come on, make it plain.
It's not for any black leader to call out Satan and identify Satan and stand up against Satan. See, black leaders can stand up and march. That's good. Black leaders can say, oh my, that's a grave injustice. We need to protest. We need to get a lawsuit and all this type of stuff. That's what good black leaders do. But the Messiah, the Messiah that you read about, his job doesn't go to try to change legislation or go protest with marches and a sign that white folks made for them. See, the Messiah's role is to literally call out the Satan and identify by name and face.
I know you. Come on.
This is what distinguishes the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from practically all black leadership.
Come on, man. Come on. We're making it plain.
See, you wonder why the powerful Jewish community, the satanic Jews, are adamantly opposed, not to those that's marching, but to him and the Nation of Islam. Why do they make it a requirement for any black leader that seeks to find favor in this world? Why do they make it a requirement to condemn, denounce, and disassociate from the Nation of Islam? Because they know Farrakhan's messianic role, while we don't.
Come on now.
See, in the Holy Quran, Allah tells us that certain Jews, they recognize Allah's messenger Messiah just as they recognize their own sons. Why do they recognize him? Because, see, that certain rabbinical sect of Jews, they've had the prophecies. They know the prophecies, perhaps even better than other Christian and Islamic clerics. Because they know in these prophecies, they know that God is to come, not as a spook. They know he is supposed to be associated with a warplane that flies in the sky. Another subject for another time. But they know these things, and they know the descriptors of that messianic personage that is to rise up and identify the end of their satanic world. So even though Allah tells us that they would recognize him as they recognize their own son, it still lets us know that they would oppose him.
Teach right.
At a certain point, Pharaoh recognized that Moses was the one after he saw all these heavenly powers backing up Moses. But that made him increase in his hatred for God's people.
Come on.
Herod recognized that the Messiah was to come up.
That's right.
But the mind of satanic Herod was not to go and worship and help this Messiah. His was to kill the Messiah who would free his people. So you're dealing with this satanic force among us today who know the prophecies and who know the messianic descriptors, and they know who Farrakhan is, and they know who you are. All praise is due to Allah. This is what is described in theology as the Messianic age. It is the time of that showdown that Minister Farrakhan talked about. And you are in it. You're playing a vital role in this thing. So you see how they attack anybody who would dare associate with this truth. They want to put fear in black leaders to keep them from even listening or sitting down in the same room with Minister Farrakhan. We've never seen this type of hatred and vitriol against a black leader in our history. And Lord knows our history is replete with the U.S. government attacking and antagonizing black leaders. That's all they've done. But we've not seen where they put this much care and diligence in trying to stop you from just listening. Let me say that again. Just listening to what Minister Farrakhan has to say. So they're attacking those sisters of the Women's March right now.
Yes, sir.
Our sister Tamika Mallory and Carmen Perez and Linda Sarsour. Sisters who were inspired by Minister Farrakhan, supported by Minister Farrakhan, and encouraged by Minister Farrakhan to stand up for women's rights. Be mindful that these three brilliant sisters all were given a platform at 10/10/15, Justice or Else, the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March led by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But now, since the Women's March has taken up momentum, there goes Satan, come in.
He's on the snake.
Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that Satan appears as a sincere advisor.
Right.
You see? And so now these toxic white feminists,
Yes. Right.
toxic as hell, toxic racist white feminists, have the nerve to tell our sisters, you better denounce and condemn Minister Farrakhan and this anti-Semitism, because the Women's March does not associate with such anti-Semitism and bigotry. Goddamn lie. I'm sorry. And they're so quick, and this is the history of white feminism. Its goal has always been to take black women away from black causes altogether to support the cause really of white women. It is a virulent form of white supremacy that we see being constantly displayed today. And I'll leave you with this reminder from white feminist hero Susan B. Anthony. She's like one of the mothers of white feminist suffrage movement. She, in a meeting in the late 1860s, where Frederick Douglass was present, she let it be known her racist attitude and idea and what she stood for. She let it be known. She said in so many words, I would give my right arm before I stand up and fight for these black causes y'all talking about, for these black freedoms.
Come on now.
See, they wanted black women and black people to subjugate the plight of black folks who just slavery about a year prior. So the hell with all, you need to stand with women's rights. Sound like Alyssa Milano and those crackers talking about you need to condemn Farrakhan or I won't speak at the Women's March, as though you've done something for black folks. So let's keep this in mind as we fight Islam, because we will surely win. And who is going to play an integral role in this defense of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is the Student Minister Anthony Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Yeah. We have to have more of this.
Yes, sir.
And you and I are going to have to wrap our minds around a certain reality.
Come on.
You're not going to get out of this holding hands and singing.
Come on.
Yes, right.
You wonder why. Sometimes the room gets thin. It is because, as the Quran says, when fighting is mentioned, you see their eyes go back in a swoon. And our people love truth, but they don't want to fight.
Come on now.
Now, we fight the hell out of each other. Or we go to war on each other. But we don't want to fight. Not the real enemy. Sometimes, brothers and sisters, I'm going to move into this part, but I want you to hear from Brother Rashad and Brother Dimitri and others, because you got to see how this thing plays out. Minister Farrakhan didn't sign up for this.
Come on now.
He didn't know it was going to go this way.
That's right.
There's a thing that when you go to study, there are nurses here, there are other professionals here. People think in terms of forests. They say, go down to the big cave, make a left.
Right.
You know, that's how we think. That's how we talk. But when you get into specific disciplines, then you learn to think in terms of trees.
Right.
See, you see yourself as a body, but a nurse sees this system, this kind of system, the lung system, the you know. See, they look, and they know what that stuff does. They think in terms of trees. They're very detailed.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to us talking about revolution, we talk about revolution in the terms of forest.
Right.
But if you're a real revolutionary, the more you get into that, you see the trees. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saw in detail who and how we are being held back. See, that's the problem. We want to be free. And we think we don't know. I put it this way, we don't know who our enemies are or who the enemy is. And then because we don't know, we get tricked over and again in the name of freedom. Because the enemy will march with you for your freedom. He'll lock arms with you and walk with you, knowing he done closed all avenues for you, so this ain't gonna work. Politicians do the same. When we came back from Washington, D.C. from the Million Man March, we got with the black politicians in Memphis, and we were fired up. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. They would go on the council floor, what have you, and they would argue our position. And we'd be like, yeah, because they arguing for us. But when the vote passed, we lose. The politician knew it wasn't going to win. So all he did was argue or exercise of futility because it wasn't going to win. So he argued to make us feel good, but he knew all the time that whatever he argued for wasn't going to pass. He didn't have the actual votes to get it done. But because we weren't politically astute, we didn't know that's what they were doing. We thought they were really down for us, and all the time they were just doing that to make us feel good. But they knew the stuff wasn't going to pass. Such is today. That the enemy in every avenue has blocked all avenues of light from reaching us. And we are looking at them not knowing that they are the actual enemy. So here we are today, 2018, still fighting for freedom. Right? Still trying to get it together. Still saying we have to unite. Okay, what's stopping us from doing such? Since everybody's willing. You have to say that there is a willingness. That's right. Because 1 million men showed up in Washington. Mr. Farrakhan had the Million Man March 3 times. And all 3 times 1 million people showed up. 4 times. That means there is a willingness.
Yes, sir.
But what stops us? Because we think that all we got to do is say, let's come together. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yes, sir. First step.
And we look up and we're not together. We're not together. Because the force that fights to oppose us is more powerful than we are at this moment.
Yes, sir.
Because we refuse to organize ourselves.
Yes, sir.
What is unity?
Good question.
Black people got to come together.
What is that?
It is true. It's true. But how do you unite with your own kind? Part of our dilemma is the fights that we have among ourselves. Most of our black leaders are upset with the minister, and they think that he picked the fight with the Jewish community. You can't convince them differently. That Minister Farrakhan started this, and that's why, I look, man, because I ain't trying to have no fight, but that's not how it started. So I'm thankful for research and a research department, because now we can learn the actual facts. But most of our people don't want actual facts. They just want to feel good. So I'm going to go into this thing. You all see it up there. Up with Jesus, down with Santa. I'm not going to teach a subject on Christmas. Because, really, if you don't know by now, damn. In 2018, I got to tell you, about the Christmas tree and stuff.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Really? You might really got to talk to somebody about something like that. But I will tell you, what if I told you that Christmas was not pagan? And it's not of, was pagan and not of God? Would you do the research yourself to see if it's true? You got these things, these smart things in your pocket. When I see my sons and them, they argue over something. The Kobe did something and LeBron did something, and they get to arguing. First thing they do, they fact check. Isn't that what they do? Then you mean that we won't fact check Christmas?
Come on, man.
We won't fact check it to see? Because sometimes we just want people to lie to us.
That's right.
So Mr. Farrakhan said it like this, that Christmas has been hijacked.
That's right.
Santa has hijacked Christmas and kicked Jesus clean out the picture. So Jesus ain't even hanging around all this other stuff. He hijacked it. In the Macy's parade, you don't see Jesus with a float going down the Macy's parade. Santa Claus got a float. He got his own house in the North Pole. They got a squad. He got a squad of elves. Now he done upgraded now. He drive a Mercedes now. You know, he drive a red Mercedes now with 8 white Mercedes leading the way, you know. On the day of a man that spoke the truth, we tell so many lies. On the day that a man told the truth. So I'm going to bring the white man to the stand, Brother Anthony. I'm sorry I let the white man in the mosque. Because some of us, you know, white folk, when they say it, it's true. This is the great Mr. Pat Robertson. But I wanted to say something that I forgot from what Brother Rashad said. How do you know a devil? How would you know? A devil, or the mind of a devil. You see how you get happy when someone tells you the truth and you accept that? But a devil, when you tell them the truth, it produces actually the opposite result. So when they recognize that you are from God, it builds up in them hatred for you. They only recognize themselves. And so they always, or you say misery loves company. Always in the goal is to bring you down to their kind of thinking. But when you elevate yourself, you automatically become the enemy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow.
So if you beg an enemy for mercy, you only embolden the enemy.
That's right.
When someone asks you for mercy, you pull up. Because someone asks you for mercy, you have a heart. Their heart is the exact opposite of yours.
Yes, sir.
That asking them for mercy only gets you trouble.
That's right.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So here comes Mr. Pat Robertson. Okay, I'm sorry, I hit the button one more time.
Okay, this is David, who says, we have friends who do not celebrate Christmas because they say December 25th is really a pagan holiday. While I agree that Jesus may not have been born on December 25th, he certainly was born as described in the Bible. How do I respond to them?
Well, in a sense, tell them they're right. The winter solstice a couple of days later was the shortest day of the year, and the pagans had something called Saturnalia, and it was a time of lawlessness because all the laws were suspended, and people, a bunch of singers who actually wandered the streets naked singing, and then they had orgies, sexual orgies. It was a mass thing. Well, when the Catholic Church came along in Italy, the Romans and others didn't want to give up their holidays, so they said, okay, we'll Christianize it. And so they said, okay, we'll say the birth of Jesus was the 25th of December. And then there was a monk who began to add it up. You see, if you read in Luke, it says there's a census taken when Quirinius was governor and so forth and so on. And they could take those leaders and figure the exact time dating from the foundation of Rome. And that's when the dates were established. And so they get pretty close to the date. But to say it's the 25th, shepherds are out abiding in the field. It gets a little cold at night. I mean, we're out there in the middle of the winter. I don't know. I've been out there on the shepherd's field on Christmas Eve. It's very nice. But it's cold. Nevertheless, I mean, what was going on? So all this business about mistletoe, pagan. Christmas trees, pagan. Giving out gifts, pagan. Every bit of it is pagan. Every single bit of it is pagan. We've Christianized it all. And so that's good. And so we have time, we celebrate for Jesus, and everybody gets all misty-eyed. But the truth is, they're all pagan. But the birth of Jesus...
We can go home. Every bit of it. Did the man say every bit? He did say that, but it's good though. Because they try to put a righteous spin on a wicked day. So I'm not trying to go into all of that. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says something to us. He said that Jesus don't care nothing about all the presents that you buy. Why do we buy gifts? See, someone is taking advantage of us. That this spirit of giving. See, you go to a funeral and you didn't do right by somebody, then the funeral home takes advantage of you. Yes, sir. So now you buy $1 million worth of flowers that the person in the casket can't smell. Right. Now you want to have a 10-hour funeral. Right. They can't hear none of that. Right. Now you want to dive in the casket and sing and talk about all these things. And the funeral parlor gets over like a fat rat. Right. Taking advantage of the grief of a family who's lost their loved one. Right. So they give you the package with the golden casket. Right. And you're going to put it in the ground. Right. And who knows whether they actually put it in the ground or not. I mean, we don't really know. But they take advantage of you. Right. Likewise, during this time, you hear the songs being sung. Stevie Wonder and the Temptations, and what's the one? Donny Hathaway and all of this. And you get up into this spirit. And here comes the enemy and takes advantage of the spirit of giving. Here come the credit card company. And they say, your credit limit has just been increased. Right. To you have a $500 increase. Because they need you to spend some money. So here you go. You go and spend this money. You want your children to have something maybe that you didn't have. Most of the time, that's how we think. I want to give them, you know, what I wasn't able to get when I was growing up. And you buy all of these things, and people take advantage of this spirit of giving. Right. And those who get the money, they don't put none of it back in your community. None. The Jewish members of the Jewish community go to Florida with your money. Right. They take all your money, go to Florida and kick it, because now everything is good for them, because they done sold you all them little toys that don't work. Because most of that stuff break before January the 1st. Half them toys is broke. And they sold you this stuff. Come on, man. Then you give gifts to people. You call it goodwill or spirit of giving. That's what you say. Yes. But people you don't like. Then you turn around on the day we tell the truth, you lying to each other. Call me, I'm going to call you. Tell the truth now, tell the truth now. You know you're not going to call Aunt Sally. Aunt Sally know you're not going to call her. Yeah. So we go to the play the niceties or however you say that with each other, knowing we have a problem. And you want to forgive everybody except for little Pookie who stole your Xbox last year or whatever. You still mad at him. But the whole world, we want to forgive the whole world. We got to revolve or evolve from that. So Minister Farrakhan said to us last Sunday that we should begin acts of kindness. Random acts of kindness. Random acts of kindness. And he quoted this 107th surah of the Quran, where it says, "Hast thou seen him who belies religion?" Belies mean, or to belie is to be hypocritical. It's to be fake. It's to say one thing and to do something else. Those who belie religion, that is the one who is rough to the offense, Lil Pookie, and urges not the feeding of the needy. So woe unto the praying ones who are unmindful of their prayers. Now this is what they call Black Friday. They break the door down. Supposed to be what's supposed to be peace on earth, goodwill to all men. But the poor little sister on the ground, she got to put a wig back. They done knocked my sister's wig off. Step over the gentleman, step right over. Ain't nobody help no. What the goodwill? Peace on earth. Yeah, right. Let's the last big screen TV, see what kind of peace we gonna have. Then we just witness somebody getting shot in the mall. Yes, sir. Real mall. Come on. This is what goes on, and the merchants wax rich off the ignorance of the people. Would these people be there if they knew the truth concerning Christmas or Jesus? They wouldn't be there. But Santa Claus and merchandise has taken the place of acts of kindness, acts of goodwill. We don't see that even among ourselves. Santa and all is taking place as opposed to acts of kindness. So God said in the end that, behold, the day cometh that burns like an oven, when all the arrogant and all evildoers will be like stubble. The day that comes shall set them ablaze, says the Lord of hosts, so that it will leave them neither root nor branch. Nothing of what we see will exist. All of it will be destroyed. Now the root of this world is wickedness. And the root of the wickedness of this world is America. America is at the root of all that we see going on in this world. And all around the world is in love with big bad America. Come on. Now my grandmother believed in Christmas. I think I set up one Christmas tree in my whole life since when I left home. But at home, there's a tree every year. Every year. And they would lay it down. My grandmother believed, and my mother, they believed in that. They believed in giving. So they weren't trying to promote paganism. My family wasn't pagans. They weren't trying to do that intentionally. And we thank God because God judges people's intentions. They didn't do that intentionally, but they didn't know that it was the day of a man named Nimrod. They didn't know that. But those wicked Jews, they know what December the 25th is. The Jewish Encyclopedia said it was Nimrod who made all the people rebel against God. You find the name Nimrod in the 10th chapter of Genesis. And they said he made war, or he says the name Nimrod comes from Mara, which means he rebelled. He rebelled against God and taught people loopholes out of the God. This is where you get confessionals and all of those things. It goes on to say it was Nimrod who excited them to such an affront and contempt of God. So all that you see people do, they're worshiping Nimrod. The lights. One of his aliases or names is Atlas. And I have a picture of that, but I didn't want to show that. One of his aliases is Atlas. And Nimrod, this Atlas who holds the world up. You see him with the world on his shoulders. But it really means him separating the law of God from the people. So y'all have this movie out now. Well, for a day you could do anything you want to do. What do you call it?
Purge. Yes, sir.
And so you could do anything you want to do and still be in favor with God. What's the name of the movie again?
Purge.
Purge. Ooh. And so you can kill or whatever you want to do and still be in favor. You all right? See, and it's talking about a time like now where you can basically do anything you want and people still say you with God. So I'm going to close this by asking you a question. What's a better act of kindness? The people ringing the bell and they get you with the songs and then you come out the store and you put some money in there, or you help the little brother on the corner, little Pookie on the corner who's poor. What's a better act of kindness in the eyes of God? And you give money to the Salvation Army and you don't know where the hell the money goes. You don't know what they do with your money, but they take advantage of your spirit to want to give. And we have heard the Red Cross down in Haiti and other places that did not take the resources that was given to them and give it to the people. We have heard over and over again that people that pledged and gave $1 million to the Red Cross, only for the $1 million never to make it to Haiti, or $1 million never make it into Texas, or the $1 million never to make it down in Katrina. Yet we still give to them because they take advantage of those suffering. But now, little Pookie, we won't give him the change at our ashtray. That's what he get. He get the change in the ashtray. He get $1. Come on. I ain't gonna promote his bad habits. See, I'm not gonna be a party to him going to get some drugs. Hell, Salvation Army is a drug. I mean, what are you saying? How do you know what they're not doing with your money? I think Brother Anthony J. told me it was Mother Farrakhan who said that you're not doing this right. In words. You give somebody on the corner $1. She said you're supposed to really bless them. Give them $10. I don't give nobody no $10. You put $10 in there, and Salvation Army thing. Come on now. People that put diamond rings in there. They're found all, you'll see it on the news before, people that put all kind of $1 million, found $1 million check in there or something. They want to give. But the little brother get the change in the coffee cup, right?
Teacher's mom advice to get a job.
Yeah, give him advice to get a job. But you don't know what put him there.
That's right.
You don't know the circumstances that he lived.
That's right.
You just see him on the corner. You see the little sister, she's not doing good. Now you want to be the judge. Forgetting that before, that was you a minute ago. You was doped up a minute ago before Muhammad found you. He didn't find you in no righteous place, no righteous condition. You had it going on. Muhammad found you doing bad. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Muhammad found me doing bad. I don't know, found me doing real bad. And I was at a moment where I didn't know which way was up. I thought I was revolutionary. I thought I was super black. You couldn't convince me that I wasn't black. But the nation wasn't black enough for me. Now you know damn well I was crazy. What was wrong? I did not have an organized way of building myself. See? Islam is freedom. Justice, equality. And people take advantage of that because they think that freedom means doing what you want. But now we are taught in the nation of Islam that freedom means responsibility.
That's right.
Responsibility. See? So while I'm free, that freedom requires me to now be responsible. To take care of this body. See, that God gave me. Well, freedom means I can do what I want. This is mine, right? And then some would say God, they would say I'm God. And then they would defile God's house. That's kind of insane. And the Quran says, go not near intoxicants.
That's what it says.
Now, so you would say that intoxicant means alcohol, but I smoke cigarettes. Cigarettes is an intoxicant. And we can go all the way down the line with that. Or games of chance. So what's the lotto? What, $1 billion now? We fantasize. Oh, if I had $1 billion. And we got good stuff we would do with the $1 billion.
Yes, sir. What?
I'm going to help black people with my $1 billion. And some say, I'll take my 90 days. You know? But Allah says that the sin is greater than the profit of the game of chance. So I come in the nation and I learn how to organize myself. It puts me under disciplined regiment. This disciplined regimen is what they call pedagogy. This is how you free yourself. So you mean you God and you can't get away from a 2-inch piece of tobacco? You can't get rid of that? And you God? And this thing control you? I mean, you God, you can't control your own natural urges? You God? And you this and that and that? See, no, you just good, you God of talk. You the gift of gab. And it put you among people. The Nation of Islam, then it took me out in the corner with some papers.
Look at it.
One of these things right here. Call, final call. And I mean, you know, I wasn't in no hurry. Because I wasn't used to the wait. So when I got mine, I stood there like Jehovah's Witness, just stood there. I didn't know how to do that. And an elderly lady, show you God now, an elderly lady summoned me. I'm like, who, me? Yeah, come here. That's what she said, Rashad. That's what she said. She probably knew. I'm standing there like, scared to death. Now, what would make me afraid in my own community to stand with a newspaper? Come on. Because I didn't know how to relate to my people on a righteous level. And she bought the paper and said, you all look so nice. And she encouraged me to keep going. So you sell these newspapers. Why do we go out, brothers? Come on. Acts of kindness. And we talking about acts of kindness. Why? We could put them in the little thing and all that. We can modernize.
Yes, sir.
But what do we lose? We lose personal touch with our people. See? So, internet, or what do you call it? Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Social media. Great tool. But what's the downside of the tool? It disconnects us from people. So you're in your basement, in your room. You got your own followers. And so you think you somebody because you got 5,000 people listening to whatever you saying. So then you get your own head swollen up. And you believe you are more than what you really are. Like the brother, he said, the earth, this is a nation of Islam, brother.
Listen, come on.
Bow tie wearing,
Yes, sir.
they're told on Facebook arguing that the earth is flat.
Look at that.
I come home, my wife arguing with the man talking about the earth round. He's saying the earth flat. And I tell her, like, look, baby, I'm arguing with no fool. You know what I mean? It don't make sense to argue with a fool.
Right.
He's supposed to be in the nation. So I quoted the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said all the planets are egg-shaped.
Right. What he said?
Gave him the page, everything where he could find it.
Right.
I know what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. I say the earth is flat. Wait, ho. Then the man brother say he has studied beyond So now, how am I going to talk to somebody who has studied beyond the honorable Elijah? Well, I ain't nothing I can say to you, brother. This is the insanity that goes on. So now, what do we lose? We don't face social media, but we lose personal touch with our people. What does personal touch generate? You ever talk to somebody and you really have an opinion of them, and then when you speak to them you find out something else, and your whole opinion of them changed? You talk to someone and you see them a certain way, and you find out it's not what it looks like. See, it's not all that you think it is. This is what personal touch creates. You see someone. I'll give you an example. Now, he just walked in the door, Brother Andre. One of those stories that I won't forget about a young man fighting his mother. Come on. Yeah, he's fighting his mother. And most of us, for a young brother to fight his mother, oh, he got something coming. Because our scripture say you're not supposed to say as much as to your parents. So you get a young 16, 17-year-old and he's fighting his mother. We gotta talk to him. But the young brother kept saying, y'all don't understand. Y'all don't understand. So finally someone asked him, what is it that we don't understand? Come to find out, his mother was on drugs. So they get a little supplement every month. She would take the money and buy drugs with the money. He has a little sister. And because they don't have funds, the little sister can't get her clothes clean. She goes to school with dirty clothes. Now, Rashad, you're a teacher. What would happen to a girl who come to school and her clothes are dirty? So now this young brother, he gets to a certain age, he's just trying to stop his mother from taking the funds and buying drugs with the money. So really he's trying to protect his sister who is being ridiculed now in school. So now, looking at the brother, you see something totally different. But without the absence of personal touch, we walk around and judge what we don't know. So the final call allows us to have personal touch. You put your hand on a brother, you talk to him, and you can feel something. I was at Mons Mariam just last Sunday. Brother sitting next to me, first time at the mosque. Beautiful brother. His name was Lamar, Brother Lamar. So I'm seeing him watch us because we have a culture among us. And so when we go to Mons Mariam, it's almost like Christmas for us. Because we get to see everybody we haven't seen, and the family is all over the country. So Mons Mariam is like Big Mama house, you know what I mean? So we go to Big Mama house, now we see Uncle Lou and this one and the people we ain't seen all year long. So the brothers see us every 3 or 4 minutes, we jumping up hugging somebody. He's sitting there just looking, and they hugging everybody. So I started introducing the brother to everybody there. He's sitting up front with me where all the ministers are. So I said, this is Brother Troy. He's from Detroit. This brother here is from D.C. That brother's from Baltimore. And he's like, whoa. I said, yeah, this brother, he's from London. London? Yeah, he's from London. And they all hugging and greeting the brother. The brother fired up. So I say, brother, what do you do? What do you do? He started telling me something about what he does. But in what he said, I could hear he was going through something right there. One of them rough patches. In what he said, you can hear what he didn't tell me, but he's saying it. So the brother's sitting there. Acts of kindness I'm talking about. Acts of kindness. So when the charity come around, he don't have anything to put in the plate. I took some money and gave him the money. Put that in the plate, brother. The plate passed by. I took a 20 and put it in his hand. I said, they got some bean pies next door. When you leave, man, get you a couple of them pies or something like that. The brother said, thank you, man, thank you. Put the money in his pocket. Acts of kindness. He didn't, and the brother, praise be to Allah. One of the first ones to stand up when it was time to accept. He was fired up.
Yes, sir.
And I said, and brother, they got a class tomorrow, just brothers. Yeah, they do. Then he asked me, he said, brother, can I get your number so we could communicate? Because now I just opened the door for him. Acts of kindness. Someone distracted me. I never got a chance to give him my number. But I remember when I came in the nation, back then they had cassette tapes.
That's right.
And I was at the cassette tape table, drooling, because they had a tape of Minister Farrakhan on the table. I ain't had no money.
Come on.
And the brother came and said, brother, you want that tape? And I promised the brother. I said, yeah, I would like that. He bought the tape. And I promised him I would give him the money back. To this day, I don't remember if I ever paid him back. But I know I could pay it forward. If I didn't pay it back, I could pay it forward by giving it to someone else. And I won't forget what he did. It was Savior's Day, 1981. The tape, and that was it for me. When I heard it was all over for me. 1981. If you ever go and look at it or listen to it, that was the tape. So we should do acts of kindness. You don't need anybody to approve your act, but random acts of kindness. You see someone on the corner, do something. Another story. Beautiful sisters in the store, like a, what do you call them things? MAPCO. And the FOI is there, and another brother. She's arguing with the cashier because she's trying to get some gas. She don't have enough money. She swipe a little card, the card come back declined, blah, 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 blah. She's trying to get some gas. And she got an ugly attitude. Then the brothers, when she went out, she could get something, but the brothers put $20 or so on her gas. Brother put so much in the FY, he put so much. She was laughing, they was laughing and talking. She looked back there talking about, you think this funny or something? She going off on them. But the brothers put the money on the gas. When she realized she had gas, she came to the brothers, thanking them, and started telling them she had a job. She trying to get to the job. And now her card, she can't get no gas, she can't get to the job. She showed them, they was like, okay, but she was like, no, she wanted to show them the papers of where she had to go, that she had a job. She was so grateful that she could get a few. Now the brothers didn't know all that was going on.
That's right.
The point I'm making is touch, acts of kindness. You don't know how those things touch people when you have personal touch with them. It might not mean nothing to you, but it means to all the world, to these people. See, so why can't we do acts of kindness?
Good teaching, Minister. Good teaching.
This is important. So now we are losing it.
That's right. That's right.
Because we don't want to go out no more. You can get up and Allah God, Muhammad is the messenger, and you Negroes need to learn that. And on social media, we are now separating. And the Savior came, who is God. And he had personal touch. I've heard the sisters talk about when they went out and they gave during our homeless feeding of the homeless, and certain things that they put in the baskets for women. They were so elated for those things. Y'all know what I'm talking about, but that they never get those kind of things. You never know with personal touch, random acts of kindness. And if you do it like that, watch what will God do for us? As a matter of fact, what act of kindness did he do for us so far?
Come on now.
Wasn't God kind enough to come himself for us? Allah says in the Quran, who is it that will offer to Allah a goodly gift? So he multiplies it to him manifold, and Allah receives and amplifies, and to him you shall be returned. Who would offer to God a goodly gift? What gift would God want from us? I want you to say your prayers. And you fast during Ramadan.
That's for you. All for you. Your gift.
What will please God? What? To go after what he loves. See, why are we raised? I'm gonna go home. We gonna go home. Why did God raise you?
Come on.
You special, right? And the ones he didn't raise, they not special, right? All of us are raised for one purpose.
Right.
Is to go after what God loves. And in going after what he loves is life for us. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
In going after what he loves, it is life in that for us. And the absent of going after what he loves, it is death for us. So while we do all that we do, let us not forget personal acts of kindness. A kind word, a smile. Don't be so critical of your own people.
Come on now.
Black people catch a hell.
That's right.
Everywhere you turn, we catch a hell. So don't be so critical of your own kind. Don't get caught up in all the gossip about black people.
Come on, teach them.
When you know the condition that we are from. Don't do that. Don't judge what we don't know. You and I are not here to judge God's people. Now, what did God give us? Did he come for us?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Christmas. Gift. What gift did he give us? We are taught that Allah came 9,000 miles for us and bestowed a gift on us. He raised from among us the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother Rodney. That's what you said earlier? He did that. And then left with us the one that is giving this enemy holy, I like that word, holy help. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And if it were not for this, praises are due to, if it were not for this, where would we be?
Come on. Come on.
There would be no 5% nation.
Come on
If
now.
it were not for Master Fard Muhammad's coming and giving what we call lessons, there would be no 5%, because there would be no Clarence 13.
That's right.
There would not be, were it not for his coming. And were it not for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad standing among us and fighting. And now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And now us. And now us. And now
Us. That's it.
and now.
Us. Come on, man.
So we're going to have to learn how to solve these problems. We are going to have to learn how to do this now. And they're going to do what they're going to do. Whatever that is. Hell, let's get it on. Whatever that they're going to do. But where you and I are going to be doing this. So I think that Brother Rashad and Brother Demetric is right. We're going to have to study now. Can't just say, I believe, that's it. Allahu Akbar. We're going to have to deal with the trees or the details of what we believe and open it up to see in those lessons the deeper meaning of the lessons. See, the deeper meaning of Quran and Bible and this enemy. We all right?
Yes, sir.
So we start tomorrow with the FOI class. Then we'll do something on Wednesday. I have something in mind, but we'll do something on Wednesday and we'll move from there. So that's what I got to say to you, brothers and sisters, today. And I thank you all for listening. Let me leave you as I came to you with the greetings, words of peace, and thank my Facebook family. Assalamu alaikum.